Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
Hey everyone, it's Evan from Merriweather Designs. Since I released my last video, I spent the past month going through Naruto all over again, since I remembered not liking how the romantic subplots were handled in that show. I have to say, my opinion on it has not softened at all, and now going back to it 10 years later as both an adult and also a writer, I dislike it even more than I did back then. That's not to say that the show's bad or anything, but it's definitely tainted by its romantic arc writing, to the point where it's distracting. Now, this is not going to be a shipping rant video. There's enough of that on YouTube as is. I'm going to approach this as a writer from a critical standpoint as opposed to a shipping one. In my previous video, I came up with the 5 tenets of romantic arc writing and what you should do when you want to show two characters growing closer together. As a point of reference, I used Cloud and Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, specifically the remake trilogy. In comparison to the original game, their expanded romantic arc is a masterclass on portraying two people falling in love with each other. Naruto actually has 3 great romances: Tsunade and Jiraiya, Minato and Kushina, and the last one we'll get into for the final section of this video. For now, let's talk about these 5 tenets. The 5 tenets of romantic arc writing are as follows: mutual affection, mutual development, conflict, chemistry, and sacrifice. You all saw the thumbnail, so we're going to get into what is widely considered to be one of the worst relationships in all of shonen. Obviously, there are going to be spoilers for Naruto and a few for Boruto as well, so you've been warned. Sasuke and Sakura as a couple are uniquely problematic, even in the realm of shonen-style romances, which generally aren't all that great. They fail to embody a single one of the 5 tenets of romantic arc writing. There is literally not a single functioning aspect of their relationship. If you're writing a story, Sasuke and Sakura are a primo reference point of what not to do. And yes, I know they have some romantic scenes in Boruto, but they come off as a half-assed attempt to rehabilitate the relationship in the eyes of the audience. It's a case of too little, too late. So, tenet 1 is called mutual affection. Obviously, there's a problem here. The foundation of Sasuke and Sakura's relationship is based on their experiences as genin in part 1 of Naruto. Problem there is, on a good day, Sasuke is an acquaintance to Sakura. More often than not, he's dismissive of her, and in the worst cases, outright hostile.
Hey yo, what the f?
おい、ナルト。
なんだってばよ。
俺と今から。
And that's before all the murder attempts and emotional abuse happen in part 2 of Naruto. To fulfill the mutual affection tenet, the characters must not only be shown to like each other, but also reserve special care and treatment for one another when they have time to be alone. To fulfill this tenet, Sasuke would have to show Sakura a level of tenderness or care that he doesn't show anyone else in his life. He never does that for Sakura. Sakura, on the other hand, loses all of her core character traits the moment Sasuke is in frame with her, which I find disturbing. She's like a different person when she's alone with him, but not in a positive way. Her desires and goals fall to the wayside, and her entire character centers on serving Sasuke when they're together. In fact, the only person Sasuke seems to really care about is Naruto, and even then it's in the antagonistic, I have to kill you sort of villainous way. Sakura's continued devotion to Sasuke doesn't make any sense because it begs the question, what good memories does she have of Sasuke for her to latch on to? Was it that moment from episode 2 where Naruto flirts with her while disguised as Sasuke? That'd be a good catalyst for her devotion to him, but she doesn't lean on that memory much, if at all. Like, it never really comes up again in Naruto, so it can't be all that important to her. Really, she just loves Sasuke because the author says so, not because of anything that happened to her character or because she evolved to become that way. While we don't see much of their relationship on screen, Kurenai and Asuma can lay claim to this tenet because they have shown a clear affinity for one another. especially as elaborated after Asuma's death. This particular tenet is hard to place in Naruto specifically, since the romances in this show usually don't go into a lot of detail on the early stages of said romance, where you get to see the contrast between their romantic selves and their everyday selves. But I thought I'd include them since they were close enough, and I don't want Minato and Kushina to hog the spotlight for these examples. This tenet involves the effect that two characters have on one another as they grow closer. The change doesn't have to be positive. A toxic relationship that's well written can be an incredible experience to engage in, something that's bad for everyone involved but highly entertaining to watch. Sasuke and Sakura can be interpreted to have a developmental effect on each other if you ignore the big orange elephant in the room. This guy. Naruto is the glue that holds Team 7 together. Within Team 7, each member of it has their strongest relationship with Naruto. He's the one that inspires their character development, just as they inspire his in different ways. Sasuke and Sakura's character development can be attributed mainly to their relationship with Naruto. Sakura resolves to be stronger and train with Tsunade, not because of her relationship with Sasuke, but because she had to put that burden entirely on Naruto since she wasn't physically up to the task during part 1. She does this because of how painful it was for her to see how badly Naruto was injured trying to fulfill this promise to her. Sakura's relationship with Naruto is the key motivating factor in her decision to become stronger. It's only about Sasuke in a sort of tangential way, not a direct one. Directly, it's more to help Naruto. Sasuke, on the other hand, becomes more selfless and collaborative over the course of part 1. But again, this isn't because of anything Sakura does, it's because of his rivalry with Naruto. This rivalry causes Naruto and Sasuke to grow and become more well-rounded people over the course of part 1, at least until the point of no return. Again, it seems that Naruto and Sasuke are the ones that fulfill the mutual development tenet of romantic arc writing. Kishimoto is a coward, he should have gone for it. In closing, Sasuke and Sakura just fail to fulfill this tenet because if you examine their relationship in a vacuum, you'll find that it lacks both substance and a discernible foundation. You have to include Naruto's influence on the both of them in order to recognize this tenet, and that means that they're in a polycule or something, which they're not. A good Naruto example of this comes from Minato and Kushina's relationship. Kushina comes to love her hair, which she initially hated due to being bullied for it. This is because Minato was able to rescue her from a kidnapping attempt because of how brightly colored her hair was. This leads to her becoming more confident in herself and embracing who she is. Minato, as a result of his relationship with Kushina, comes to be less reserved personality-wise and is much more open with his emotions in the future. As in the early parts of their relationship, he was just kind of this polite and kind boy who didn't have much going on personality-wise. He was kind of a stick in the mud. Fast forward into the future, and he develops a reputation for giving his techniques these silly-ass, long-winded names. He makes her more confident, and she in turn makes him more vibrant as a person. They have an effect on each other. Elements of the plot that keep the two characters apart that they must overcome. Sakura and Sasuke don't fit either of these things. The romantic relationship between them post-Shippuden is marred by a very, very unequal situation, and Sakura is miserable most of the time. On top of that, she turns into a complete doormat when Sasuke's around, so she'd never call him out on his bad behavior. And with regard to the circumstances pulling people apart, well, they don't fit that either. Sasuke is the one who chose to leave Konoha back in part 1. There wasn't some tragedy or chain of events that forcibly separated them from each other. He also continually chooses to spend as little time with his family as possible. His daughter's 12 and she has no memories of him, and he doesn't even recognize her the first time he sees her. Naruto and Sasuke fulfill this tenet more than they do with their spouses. The final battle between the two of them can be summed up as a battle of wills, a fundamental disagreement on how the world should be shaped. Sasuke concedes his way after their battle and resolves to take Naruto's path forward. It sounds like Naruto and Sasuke are the ones that fulfill the conflict tenet. They work through their disagreements and in turn strengthen their friendship. Therefore, Naruto is a yaoi manga. Kishimoto, you coward. Now, in all seriousness, a proper example of this tenet once again features Minato and Kushina, who managed to overcome their disconnect and strengthen their relationship as a result. Remember that at first, Kushina did not like Minato at all. She thought he was kind of girly and viewed him as like overly timid and unreliable. It took him saving her life, using the very thing she hated most about herself, to reach that point of mutual understanding. After this conflict, they're inseparable. When you write your own relationships, you need to put your couples through some shit. Seriously, it'll help the story. Do it. Chemistry. Yeah, this one's gonna be short. At no point is Sasuke shown to have a moment with Sakura where they have a seamless romantic moment where it's clear that they're emotionally and physically in tune with one another, except in Boruto. However, these scenes are basic foundational moments they should have had much earlier in their relationship while it was developing. You don't get points for doing the bare minimum, especially when the main story of Naruto ended over a decade ago. Props for actually doing it, but too little too late. The chemistry tenet is marked by an unspoken synergy between two characters, both emotionally and physically. It means the two involved characters can pick up on each other's emotional cues and quirks, non-verbally. There should also be a level of emotional intimacy relative to the characters' temperaments. Has Sasuke ever confided in Sakura about his fears and hopes? Has he ever allowed her to get close to him in any way beyond being co-workers? No, not that we're shown on screen in Naruto. They instead used a massive time skip to explain that they're somehow together in the epilogue, and now they're trying to back-end the relationship with sappy romance long after the core audience of Naruto has left the building. The only person Sasuke has chemistry with is Naruto. Hey, Mr. Kishimoto, if Naruto and Sasuke are gay, just blink twice. I know Shonen Jump has a sniper following you at all times. I won't tell anyone, I promise.
Do it! Just do it!
That aside, a good example of the chemistry tenet is Shikamaru and Tamari. Both of them have an easiness about them in the way that they interact with each other. They're comfortable being themselves, and there's almost no awkwardness in their day-to-day interactions. To properly fulfill this tenet like they do, the awkwardness is only acceptable in either the early stages of the relationship, or if they happen to escalate the relationship to new levels of intimacy, be it physical or emotional. From day one, these two were always on the same wavelength and had just a connection that was very easy to see, and we knew that they would be together since part 1 of Naruto. It was that obvious. These two are just really cool, and everybody wanted them to get together. If you're not great at writing relationships, just show two people getting along and keep it simple. That's what Shikamaru and Tamari did. The feeling clearly isn't mutual at any point after Sasuke leaves Konoha. You could maybe make a case when they were genin, like when Sasuke goes sicko mode when the enemy ninja hurt Sakura in the Forest of Death, but that scene leans more into the implications that the curse mark is corrupting Sasuke rather than him being actually protective of Sakura, since he goes right back to being dismissive of her after this hug scene. It's not important. Their relationship does not change at all as a result of this scene, which leads me to believe that Sasuke was doing this for his own reasons and not necessarily to protect Sakura. Also, any camaraderie or protectiveness he had towards Sakura in part 1 is overbeaten Boruto, so that's off the table as well. I know he has his reasons, but the point I'm making is Sasuke never puts Sakura first. He moves at his own speed regardless of her desires or needs, and it speaks to a clear imbalance in their relationship. While Sasuke and Sakura get their first romantic scenes in Boruto, this should have been in the main story, not after they've been ostensibly married for like a decade. Much like how Naruto the Last had to be made because Hinata's barely in Naruto to begin with, they're trying to fix something that never had a foundation to begin with. First impressions are everything, and SasuSaku blew it a long time ago. As a writer, this is something you should never do if you want your viewers to care about the relationship that you're creating. You need to put in the right scenes while the relationship is developing. Don't do it after the fact. Trust me when I say that the majority of the Naruto fandom does not care about this romance at all. I've asked around and that's the primary response. A proper example of this tenet is Minato and Kushina for obvious reasons. But for a more nuanced take, let's look at Jiraiya and Tsunade. Both of them are willing to die for one another on the spot without question. Tsunade and Jiraiya especially embody this tenet since my read on their relationship is that Tsunade falls in love with Jiraiya at some point during Naruto Shippuden, but she is too afraid to get close to him because she has the Cartwright curse. I know for a fact that Tsunade's greatest regret is not stopping Jiraiya and telling him how she felt, but she couldn't afford to distract him from his mission at the time, and Jiraiya spent his life loving her from afar and offering her his support whenever he could. Ironically enough though, Tsunade fell for him at a point in his life where he'd written off the possibility of ever being together with her. That's what you should go for in your writing. Your characters need to show a serious level of devotion toward one another, not whatever Sasuke and Sakura are. And the only way to fix this relationship is to write Sasuke completely out of character. He'd have to have a level of empathy and compassion that he's never been shown to be capable of until Boruto. And as mentioned before, that's just the writing team trying to rehab the relationship. They're good scenes, but too little, too late. I don't care, dude. Like, spend screen time on something that actually matters, not this dead-end marriage. All in all, don't write your relationship like Sasuke and Sakura. I've never seen anything this bad before become canon, so that's all I got to say on it. Let's move on to the final section of this video. You remember how at the beginning of the video I said that there were 3 standout romances in Naruto? You have Jiraiya and Tsunade, Minato and Kushina, and you notice a pattern here? Yeah, I'm going there. In doing my research for this video, I was able to consume Naruto at a rapid pace as opposed to waiting weeks at a time for each installment of the story like I did the first time around. As a result, I was able to turn my writer brain on and I started noticing the overarching plot threads and setup techniques being used beyond the obvious parallels in Naruto and Sakura's relationship to, Jiraiya and Tsunade or Minato and Kushina. It let me see their relationship evolve in real time. Sakura goes from hating Naruto to respecting him to implicitly trusting him with her life, all over the course of part 1. In part 2, the relationship escalates again to the point where Naruto is Sakura's closest friend. This investment totals up to about 2/3 of Naruto's duration, and the fact that this didn't happen either is a sign of executive meddling or narrative malpractice. And Kishimoto's not a stupid person. That makes the former much more likely. I'm blown away at how violently and suddenly the story changed gears to pivot Naruto away from Sakura after the pain arc. But the story also doesn't do enough to properly position Hinata as Naruto's main love interest. As a result of this, Naruto and Sakura are also a prime example of what not to do in romantic arc writing, but for completely different reasons. They get boatloads of development and affirmation as a potential couple, but then are never put together. Basically, they have the opposite problem that the canon relationships have. It's also really funny to note that Naruto and Sakura hit all 5 of the tenets of romantic arc writing, but because they aren't ever allowed to discuss their issues in an intimate scene, they don't get to properly finish their arc, either agreeing to stay as just friends or agreeing to be lovers. Avoid this at all costs in your own writing and commit to your romantic arc, otherwise it's wasting both your time and the time of your readers. The Naruto-Sakura relationship is almost fully realized. It's literally 90% of the way there. Now, I'm not just gonna drop that thought on you without, supporting it with actual evidence. So let's take a look at a couple things. You see the B-roll footage going right now. The huge problem here is that they never had a follow-up to this fake confession scene. Because when you break that scene down, you start picking up small nuances that were definitely supposed to be followed up on at some point, but I think the follow-up scene to this ended up on the cutting room floor when Hinata was chosen as the final endgame relationship. In that scene, there's a lot of nuance, and Sakura is shown to be lying about her feelings for Sasuke. However, everything she says after that is objectively true. Specifically, how Naruto's been there for her over the years, and on top of that, how much she cares about him, because she clearly does care about Naruto. And also, we have to mention the fact that during part 1 of Naruto, Sakura was legitimately Naruto's most active cheerleader, essentially. With all that said, here's where the nuance of the confession scene comes in. When you dig into her reaction when Naruto rejects her, this is the facial expression she makes. She's literally about to cry for a second, and then after that, she gets mad. Listen to her dialogue here.
So that's it? You think I'm lying to myself? I'm the one who decides how I feel, not you. If you hate me, just come out and say so. Don't make some lame excuse.
But it doesn't make sense. You left the village and came all the way out here just to tell me that?
Just to tell you? Just? Is that what you said? You think it's easy for a girl to profess her love like I just did? Yes, I came all the way out here. Of course I'd come as far as this.
That reaction doesn't line up with somebody who's just completely lying and BSing you in the moment. If everything she was saying was a lie, she'd have a more calculated approach to how she handles this situation, because her emotional appeal failed, right? So the next step is to go to a logical appeal and try to just simply convince Naruto to do what she wants. But as she switched from talking about Sasuke to talking about Naruto, she clearly got emotionally invested in what she was saying, and Naruto dismissing it caused her to lose her composure. Implication being that maybe there's some truth in there somewhere. And to close off this section, I want to leave you all with a little bit of an idea here. There was clearly supposed to be a follow-up to this, and I think in that follow-up scene, Sakura would have come to Naruto and said something along the lines of, "I only lied about one thing that day." Otherwise, it begs the question, why would they cut a follow-up scene if you could also use it to properly position Hinata as Naruto's love interest? That follow-up scene could have just as easily been Naruto saying that he just wants to stay friends with Sakura. But the scene goes mysteriously unaddressed. Basically, Kishimoto put too much sauce in this scene for him to come back to it and still put Naruto with Hinata. That's what my perspective as a writer tells me. When you write your own romances, always have in mind how it's going to end so you don't fall into the same trap of wildly swinging back and forth between two alternatives. If you want to show a pivot from one character to another, you've got to commit and put in the work to add in the scenes that show that happening in real time. If you're going to do romance, do it right. If you don't want to spend time on it, keep it simple. And don't put your leads in a love triangle with each other unless you intend to commit to properly resolving it. Anyway, that's just my opinion. If you want to learn how to write a good romantic arc, I recommend that you watch my other video on this featuring Cloud and Aerith from Final Fantasy VII. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time, whenever that is.